already started.
We're gonna have to cut that out. The last like 10 minutes are all recorded.
Thanks for being here. All right, well, we'll just get into it and just follow my lead.
I got you, man. It's all good.
What's going on, folks? Welcome to the Lemonade Podcast. I'm your host, Frank, along with Matt and Mike. Here at the Lemonade Podcast, we go by the saying, when life gives you lemons, we make lemonade. And we pour it onto the world. And with that, we hope to encourage, inspire, and empower not only those of you tuning in, but our guests themselves. And today's guest is Reuben. Welcome.
What's going on, man?
Another day here, you know, with the lemons.
Let's have some lemonade again.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get to it. Funny enough.
It's good, though, man.
Oh, it's good. Matt, we say Matt makes it.
Does he really, though?
I bought it at CVS.
He makes the effort.
Is this CVS lemonade?
No.
It's good.
Best of the best, bro. General brand.
You know what I mean? It's a diamond in the rough.
If you guys start making it
It's like 8
for the
gallons
show,
for like $1.
yeah, you start making it for the show, you guys can market it. Like, man.
See, I think he has the idea. You know where I'm going for. Like, that's part of the whole lemonade movement.
Yeah.
You know, podcast is an element of that. Yeah. We have the drip as well, and then we have the lemonade coming. At least in my head, that's where it exists.
I like that.
That's a good segue. I make the lemonade on YouTube.
Boom. He does.
You go.
That's you know, everybody's got a little bit of lemonade that we make, and you know, I'm just here to talk to people. Well, that's it. Well, Reuben, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
You know, coming through. You come through to us through Mike.
Yeah, we work together.
Mike.
That's false.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so you work.
I work.
I
No,
know.
he works. He's hard. That dude works.
Yeah.
Thanks, Big Daddy.
All right, there you go. So Reuben, aka Big Daddy. All right, fun times. So Reuben, tell us what it is that you do.
I'm a DJ.
DJ. All right. You got a name?
Reuben C. I put it on my arm in case I ever forget it.
In case
Yeah.
It's like a memento.
Yeah.
There I am. Reuben C. Good stuff. Yeah. How long you been doing your thing?
Started in 93, 94.
Nice. Okay.
So
okay, I'm gonna.
it's
have
been a
question
little
about
bit.
that.
Yeah.
Cool. So where are you from?
I was born in Norwalk, California.
Okay.
Raised kind of all over Norwalk, Fontana, kind of rotated back and forth.
Yeah.
And then ended up in San Diego in 92 when I joined the Navy.
Oh,
I
shit.
Came down here.
Okay. There you go.
Did 4 years here in the Navy, and then that's how I got started with all of this.
Oh, yeah. Fun times. The Navy.
Yeah.
There you go. Matt was a Marine. He's a Marine? How does that work?
Sorry, man.
Once a Marine. Oh. Shots fired.
They are. Once a Marine, always a Marine. I
There you
get
go.
that. No,
They say.
Yeah. Yo, it's a room full of veterans. Oh, Marine, Army, Navy.
Here we go.
Yeah, which is the Air Force.
And then Mike.
And then there's Mike.
Damn.
You're welcome.
I'm just a veterano.
Relax. Yeah. Are we from? No, it's dope. Yeah. So, I was gonna ask real quick. As far as like you got into it in 93, 94?
Yeah, like 93, 94. Right after boot camp. I got out of boot camp.
Oh, okay.
And then, but go ahead. What was the question?
No, that was it. That was like, while you were in the Navy, you.
Yeah. So back in the 90s, TJ was not what it is now. That was the spot. Like everybody went to TJ. People came from LA. Mm-hmm. Everybody came to San Diego to go to TJ because the strip on Revolution was like huge.
La Revu.
Yeah. So at that time, got out of the military, got out of boot camp, went on like I think I probably went on one of our first deployments, or I don't remember. We only went out to see a couple times, and then ended up hanging out in TJ all the time.
Yeah.
That's where we would go after work every day.
Yeah, nice.
And I used to hang out at El Torito over there on the strip, and was there every day. Even on Christmas Day, went there.
Jesus.
Yeah, and it was packed. It was packed.
Yeah.
So long story short, ended up lying and telling them that I knew how to DJ.
Oh, okay.
I used to go buy vinyls for them and bring them in to sell them, because this is what I was like, hey, you guys should play this. Like I was recommending.
Yeah.
So I would go to ACNS Records over on H Street, which is right over by where that Tacos El Gordo that just moved on H in the South Bay area. There was a vinyl shop there for like all the underground, like not even just house DJs, all the hip hop DJs. Everybody went there and bought music. Yeah. So I used to go buy house music, take it with me to the club, and sell it to them.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I ended up like, oh yeah, you know how to DJ, and I was lying. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know how to DJ. I lied and
fake it till you make it. I guess.
got left in the booth one day.
Okay.
And,
What was that like?
that was scary. The DJ that was there, Borracho, Oscar, he obviously was a drunk, so he would always want to go out and do his thing. And so I would hang out in the booth, and I was acting like I was DJing. I had the vinyl on, and I had the headphones on. I knew how the basic functions of it. Yeah. And he said he was going to go get the spotlight for the go-go stage, because we had a go-go stage where all the girls would go up there. Yeah. And he didn't come back. Oh. So I'm sitting here listening. I got my headphones on, and I'm listening, and I didn't feel any vibrations anymore. Okay. And everybody's kind of standing there. At El Torito, you have it's up on the second floor. Everybody looks up at the DJ. Yeah. So everybody's just standing there looking at me. There's no music except for what's in my headphones. So I slammed it over. Oh, shit. And then I'm yelling on the mic, like, get up here, bro. And he comes up laughing, and that's when I was like, dude, I was humiliated. I was like, I felt horrible. I was about to leave, and he stopped me, and he's like, no, here. And then he gives me a vinyl, and he goes, do this. Okay. He tells me to do it. And I'm like, no. He goes, if you don't do it, I'm going to leave again. Oh, shit. Okay. So then I did it, and I crashed. Bad. It was horrible. So he goes, come back tomorrow before we open and practice. Nice. Okay. So then I came back the next day, probably like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I got off work at the ship, and then I hit the trolley, and I went over. And I used to practice on the kids. The kids in TJ, they get out of school, like the preparatory schools with all the uniforms. Yep. And then they go to the clubs, and they go hang out in there, and they dance and stuff. The nightclubs let them go in and just go dance. Right. So I was practicing on like kids. Right. And probably within like 4 or 5 days, it just kept hitting it. And the next thing I know, I had the basics down, and then the next thing I know, it took off from there.
Shit, that's dope. How long have you known Borracho?
Yeah, I only knew him from going into the club. Okay. We would go in the club, broke up a couple of fights with him because it was kind of like our hangout, like me and like all the guys that I hung out with on the ship. But then, some guys got duty, some guys, like I would go no matter what. I go by myself. Yeah. So that's kind of how I ended up starting that. And then once I would go buy all these vinyls, and that was the other side of it, was I brought them vinyls a couple of times, and the owners were like, no, we're not going to buy any today. Okay. So I went to take them back to ACNS, and they're like, hey, bro, we can't do it. Like, they let me do it one time, but then they were like, nah, we can't keep returning all this music, you know? And that's why I brought those. Give you an idea.
You got a couple, you got a few.
Like, example, this is not what I would have played in the club. Okay. But this is Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. Yep.
Classic.
$8.99.
Perfect.
So to give an example, like back in the day, children, there were these things called vinyl records. Yeah. And if I wanted one song, I would have to buy the whole album a lot of times. Yeah. So this is a good example. Like when I started doing weddings and stuff, I needed to have stuff like this. Yeah. But if like now you could go on, I mean, kids get this stuff for free now. They don't care. Or if you're going to go on Amazon, or you're going to go on any kind of the platforms to buy music, I'm going to pay like $1 or $2 for a song. Even the music that I get now, like the underground stuff, I'll probably pay $2 if it's a brand new, $3 for a brand new song. But back in the day, I would spend easily $9, $10, $15 just to get one song. And so every time I would go in, because I was in the military, I didn't spend I didn't have to pay rent. I was living on board the ship. Yep. So my whole paycheck went to the food that I was eating on, after hours, and the music that I was buying. I'd spend $200-$300 on vinyls just to go get them. But that's kind of how I come back to them, and I'm like, hey, I got $200 worth of vinyls, and they're like, well, keep them. So I was like, okay, well, now I'm going to use, and that batch was my first batch that I started with.
Yeah, you have your own collection.
And now I'm playing in the club, and then I started going from all that to all the clubs up and down the strip. I played Cats, Vibe, Rio Rita. Well, Cats wasn't on there. Cats was more off the strip, but Vibe, Rio Rita, Magic Go, The Caves, all those clubs.
It's dope because like at that point you spent, it's an investment, I would say.
Didn't know it.
Nowadays, yeah, of course. You're building your collection, and especially because I remember you saying like, "Yo, like, you have these songs, this music where I'm like, yo, you should play this. Like, this is the shit, right?" I'm guessing, and they're like, "Nah, we're good," and you're like, "Damn, bro, like, I'm telling you." Yeah. But now you're stacked. You got a whole collection of shit that you know is gonna bump. You know what I mean? That's dope. Yeah, man. Well, shit. Moving forward. So you were in the Navy 4 years. You did your thing, and you continued with this shortly after that, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. In '97, I was up for re-enlistment, and the ship that I was on, the Vincennes, it's the one that shot down that Iranian airliner back in right before I got there, about 2-3 years before I got there. they had an incident. They were overseas. It made all over the news. They shot down an Iranian civilian airliner.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a big old deal. So our ship couldn't go to certain places. Like we couldn't go through Silkworm Alley because they said they were going to shoot missiles at us and all this other stuff. So when we would go on deployment, we would kind of break off on certain areas. That ship was getting restationed from San Diego going to Japan within a year or two of when my re-enlistment was up. So when I came up for re-enlistment, I didn't re-enlist because at the time, my ex-wife and I, that's when we were dating, and I was kind of like, hey, will you wait for me? And if, she's like, hell no, I don't even know if you'll wait for me. So I was like, I kind of did I chose love over my whole quote career. Right. And I got out of the military at that time, and I stayed here in San Diego with her. And then, and towards the end of that, like within the first 3 to 4 years, I always did the whole I'm never gonna be a wedding DJ because club house DJs, radio DJs, like every DJ's got a different style. Yeah. There's different parts and elements that go to what you do as a DJ. So I've done all of them. Yes. I played clubs, played radio. I played I've done all of them. So now fast forward, I can look back and be like, oh yeah. But the money for me at the time, unless festivals weren't really what they are now back then, and I wasn't in the festival scene, and I wasn't producing or doing anything like that. Right. So, in order for me to get paid like what somebody like Bad Boy Bill or Richard Vision, these guys are getting paid $1,700 to do a 30-minute or a 1 hour set, and then they'll show up. And back then, I know that even when we were playing up and down the strip, these guys would get booked at every spot. They could go walk them up down the strip and be like, hey, we're gonna get this guy in over here. And he may have got booked at Vibe to go play, and he got paid whatever his main amount was that he was going to get paid. But then the promoter is going to take him to every club up and down the strip and be like, hey, I'll give you a discount. Let's get this guy on. And then they work the whole strip. Right. That's just part of how all the DJs were kind of doing it back then. But I wasn't on that level, you know what I mean? I was just like, hey, just glad to even get to meet the guys or play with them.
Right. So you actually met
Yeah. Richard and all those guys. It's not one of those things where you'll be like, oh yeah, hey, what's up, Richard? But I grew up listening to Richard, and even this is where I give my props out. I'm gonna give my props out to AJ. For sure. I got old Aqua Boogie vinyl because back in the 90s, early 90s, before I went into the military, I was listening to Power Tools on Power 106. Yep. And I was listening to Richard Vision back when he was Humpty Vision. Yeah, Richard, Tony B, AJ Mora, all of those guys, that was who influenced me. So the next thing you know, I'm playing different clubs, and the promoters are booking those guys to come in. So that's how I kind of got to meet them. You get the opportunity to
for sure,
geek out and fan out on the guys that you're opening with, and it's like, oh, cool. I got to open for Bad Boy Bill, or I played at a club with Richard Vision or Irene, or
DJ Irene,
all of that stuff.
Yeah, so. I remember I was in LA because I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah. So I remember house music was huge, at least at that point. But yeah, on the radio they would always play DJs. It was to me it was different because radio would only play radio shit. Hey, here's the song, one song. But then you'd have late night they'd have this DJ and he'd just play a whole set throughout a couple hours, and you just hear house music. At the time that they played it was later on at night, and then it became more popular, and then you could hear it throughout the daytime. And whatnot. But yeah, I remember, like I said, DJ Irene, Humpty Vision, Bad Boy Bill, all those people, and because a lot of my friends were into fucking party crews, right? So you're part of the cool kids, and then that's what they'd fucking do, and then it was a set. It was not necessarily not gang violent type of shit, but it was we're just gonna go to represent, go through this fucking party.
It's all the rebels and all.
I remember my friend had a cousin who was part of a rebel crew, and they dressed in all Harley Davidson leather shit, and I'm just like, you guys don't even ride motorcycles, but that was the fucking look for
with the whole chain.
Yeah, the chains, the hair with the man. Yeah. That's early mid 90s, I would say. Yeah, shit. I am that old. And so are you.
I know. I'm 48. I'm about to be 49.
Okay, there you go.
I got some age on me. I know my damn. There you
No, but it's dope because with the collection you've been building and with the time been doing what you've been doing, there's the history behind that. And
Yeah.
I think you've gotten to see like someone, like I said, you look up to in a sense, that inspires you, like in Bad Boy Bill, DJ Irene, and all those folks. I don't know too many. I just remember those names, right? But then you get to see them now because they're still around.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
What's crazy is I give a shout out to my girl over there.
Yeah.
We were talking about it on the way over here, and we were talking about how recently, well, it was about a few months ago, about 4 months ago with Irene.
Oh, yeah.
So Irene was over at Rich's, and she was just telling me, because we've seen some other DJs recently, and she's kind of like, house wasn't her music, like, ever. And then she met me, and it's like all of a sudden, over like almost the last couple of years, it's been like non-stop, like raves and warehouses and tunnels and underground kind of stuff. Like, so she's kind of seeing what that scene's like. And so she's getting used to music. But of all the people, like one of her favorites is Irene, because I went to film Irene at Rich's, and she's ever since if anybody's ever seen Irene play, she is nothing but a ball of energy. Like she's just on fire the whole time she's up there, and she was just like, I loved Irene. She was awesome.
The only track I remember from her was really popular at the time. I think other people started using it too, but it was the Tetris theme.
Yeah.
Like that was
huge. That's like,
and she fucking,
that's techno, like the old school original techno hard stuff.
And it was here. That shit would come on and people would fucking go wild. Like Irene rock that shit. That's the one I remember. Like I said, I grew mostly around hip hop, all this stuff, but that was the scene up in LA, in San Fernando Valley, up in high school. Like that's the shit that people were doing. So we just fell into it. But I still kind of kept my distance because I'm like, I don't really understand this. I don't dance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody would dance, It's funny because I was showing Matt, remember that video I showed you? I was like, you want to get a taste of like my high school days, up in LA. This is it.
Right.
And it's this shot of Humpty Vision, and they're in like this warehouse whatever little party they got going. Vision's in the back, and everyone's dancing up front. But to me, the cool thing about it was that everybody, it was just so different. There was no like not one look, not one vibe.
Right.
It was like a whole bunch of the variety of people, just fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like those are the kids that I grew up with. Like everybody was different. Like they had their own identity, But when it came to that type of shit, they were just there. They were they're the party, they're dance, whatever. And even like these hardcore looking, gangsters or whatever, fuck, they're just like getting down. I was like, oh damn, this fucking dance. Like it was wild, like to be able to see that. But as major as it's been, and as long as it's been, for me, one of the biggest things we pointed out right now was watching them from the beginning, almost like those people, and then watching them now, 20, 30 years later. Even in hip hop, same thing. Because a lot of artists aren't around anymore.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But to be able to see that, it makes you like, okay, cool, this shit's still going. They're still going after theirs. They're huge and maybe less accessible. But I remember when they were more accessible, right?
Right.
So that's dope. So back to what you're doing. Real quick, touch up on some of the vinyl that you brought.
So I brought I told you there was kind of a story to everything. I wanted to show how like even with, because not all of them have a price tag on them. A lot of them would have the foil wrap on them or whatever.
So this is
AJ Moore. So AJ was one of the founders of Power Tools, and big props to AJ. That's my boy. So recently, I'm one of the resident DJs for Therapy. He does Therapy LA right now. Okay. Few times a year, we'll even do like either on the beach or we do the toy drive, and this is one of his original vinyls that I should make him sign when next time I see him, because he's always like, he's got a lot of vinyl out. So that's AJ, that's Aqua Boogie. So for people that don't know, the old school underground like house scene on the West Coast, you had Aqua Boogie when the hard house scene was hitting, and like that kind of, I'm trying to think, like straight up the West Coast scene was Aqua Boogie.
Okay.
On the East Coast, you had underground construction and like, well, I don't know if that was necessarily the East Coast, but from what I remember, I got a lot of underground construction. I got a lot of Aqua Boogie because that was kind of what I was born on when I first started as a DJ. So that's AJ. Yeah. This is just like, I was just randomly, Mike's like, hey, make sure you bring some props.
No.
So I randomly go through, that's El General. It's like an old, like just a remix of his. And it was just one of those random things where I'm just grabbing whatever I have off the shelf.
This is just a personal question. Because I remember El General, and he used to dress in like this general fucking uniform. That shit was crazy. He had a whole persona. What would you compare that to, like the music today? Like what do you call it? If you were to say El General is today's what?
Oh man, I don't know, because he was like, I remember the first time I heard him, somebody told me, "Hey, bro, it's a Spanish reggae." Like it was like muévelo, muévelo.
Yeah,
and
I remember.
He was just so different because that was like, man, when was
Maybe Calle 13.
93. I remember them. I don't think I might have heard their stuff, but I wouldn't be able to identify.
I don't know.
But I remember General a lot.
What's crazy to me is like, we all know who he is now and he's like legendary, but back then, like it's almost like saying, well, who was Bob Marley? You know what I mean? It's like that becomes like a big gigantic thing before there was an Instagram, before there was a YouTube, before there was an internet, before there were cell phones, before there was anything where people could just automatically become like this giant thing. They become giant based off of the work that they put out.
Right.
So
yeah, because
he's still classic.
Even you said it today, you know, like reggae, right? And his spin on it, right? But it's like almost like a reggaeton from then type of deal.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me of like listening to that and then fast forward to like the similarity.
I wasn't gonna say Bad Bunny. Don't worry.
No, I'm not. Yeah, Mike. How you? Mike's offended. Oh shit. This interview's over according to Mike. No. Yeah. No, but I remember I used to listen to it. My sister. You know, we listen to this shit a lot of times and stuff. So what else? Listen.
Okay, this one. Let me show you this. There's a reason for this right here. All right, so I don't want to say I got a brain thing going on, but I have a really hard time remembering the names of songs. For instance, I know exactly what's on this album. Yes. I know what the sound's going to be on it based off of the image.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when we were working in clubs back in the day, I didn't own turntables.
Okay.
So the only place that I ever got to play was in a club. So if I was going to go to that club and I was going to play, basically today I would go and I would buy 15, 20 vinyls and I would head straight to the club.
Okay.
So I would have usually a bag that I bought, a backpack that would probably hold about 30 vinyls. Yeah. I would take the ones that I was familiar with and then some of the newer ones, and I would kind of stack them in somewhat of an order based off of what I remembered. But then I don't know which songs. If this one has like 6 or 7 songs, there's 2 on the front. There's 1, 2. This one's only got like 5. So what I would do is, this was my way of doing it. Right. I would mark it and I would put a double. So that meant track number 2.
Gotcha.
So that's what that means for me.
There you go.
And then on this side, also track number 2 on this side. What would happen is I would start mixing and I would get going really fast because that's kind of my style of mixing. I don't like just letting the tracks lag. I get bored really fast and I want to keep packing it. So what I would do is I would grab and stack my tracks and I would know which one to go to and I just slap it on. So sometimes I have a friend of mine who kind of he basically mentored me, Chris Cutting Up Martinez. That's Chris. I'm gonna give props to Chris.
Yeah, there you go. What up, Chris?
Chris is the guy that he was also in the Navy, and he had turntables in his dorm on 32nd Street.
Okay.
So he's like, "Hey, bro, come back, hang out with me." So I learned how to practice. I learned how to use. He had like a 12-track there that we would do recordings and make mixtapes.
One of the technical
kids,
stuff.
there was these things called cassette tapes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny enough because I feel like this episode would have been dope for season 1, 2? Season 2. Because that was like our vinyl was the theme for that season. Yeah. And you see it in the visuals and whatnot, like the sound you hear, like the needle drop and the crinkling of the audio. Yeah, that was our vinyl was our season 2 theme. Yeah. So we got the evolution of sound out here. With Chris. Right?
Yeah.
It seems like
he's from Chicago.
She learned more of the technical stuff about
technical, and also he's kind of like how Irene has like that energy. Chris is like that. I started hanging with him, and he he's the one that told me, he's like, you got to get out of El Torito, dude. He's like, if you don't get out of there, if you're going to be a resident DJ there, you're never going to go anywhere. I was like, hey, bro. The Baker Boys are coming in.
Yeah,
like it was like all these people would come to El Torito because the promoters would bring them through. That's how I met a lot of people. And he's like, no, you can't stay here. If you stay as a resident somewhere, you're never gonna grow. And that was the first time I got out of there. We went all these different clubs, and then started doing like mobile events.
Oh shit!
And you have to learn how to like, you do college events, you do all kinds of stuff, and it's like you have to learn different equipment.
Yeah. So he pretty much got you out of your comfort zone.
Oh, way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I love that. That's we would do back-to-backs together. You see back-to-backs now, like where there's, you ever see B2B, like if there's two DJs that are going to go on at the same time together. Last night we went to go film DJ Sneak here at a warehouse downtown, and at the end of it there were two guys that went on and they went back to back, and she was like, oh man, I loved it. It was amazing. So we would do that together, and to get me out of my comfort zone, he would mess with me all the time. He would grab something that he knew that I would play, because he's like, you're getting too predictable. So he's like, he would throw on what I was going to grab next, and he would put it on, because we had a lot of the same records. Right. And then he'd force me to have to like change up. So then he'd throw some other stuff on, and it was kind of like we were going, he plays one, I play one. He plays two, I play two. We go back and forth like that. And then that kind of created more of a stay out of your comfort zone. Be very comfortable being fluid and moving.
Yeah, be comfortable being uncomfortable. I like that. I try to do that. I take myself sometimes just because I'm like, I'm getting too complacent. Fuck that. Let me just do some crazy shit.
Well, I do that with my son. My son DJs as well.
Okay.
And I make him get uncomfortable.
Good.
I make him do it. It's
stand
like,
over him with a belt.
Come
on, go play this shit.
But I let him go now. He kind of does his thing. And
that's good.
It's good.
Well, it's wild because from your conversation or talking about Chris and then Borracho, like they both kind of, hey, that's the deep end. You're gonna learn to swim today.
Yeah.
Foof. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, and you didn't allow yourself to drown. You said, okay, I'm gonna keep swimming, right?
Yeah.
Dory here, not Dora, Dory. No, just keep swimming. Nah, but it's good because I think through that you found yourself, and I think almost like there's a resiliency that was born. Because of it. I don't know.
No, it's true.
It's your take, because to me that's just a lesson in life in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being uncomfortable in those situations, it's what you're gonna make out of that. What you're gonna learn from it, how you're gonna deal with it, all those things that come from that. And one of the biggest things is your growth. The growth that comes from that. Right. From Borracho, hey, like, nah, bro, I'm gonna leave if you don't do okay, cool. You were forced to do that, but it made you get better, reach the new plateau, this new level. Chris, same thing, the technical side. Yeah. I'm gonna see I'm gonna have you reach the next level by fucking with your shit.
Yeah, exactly.
No, and no, you're too predictable. No, we don't need that.
Right.
Everyone can be predictable. Fuck all that. And so it's dope. It's dope lessons in that. At least that's what I saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is good. And then now with your son, how long has he been DJing? God,
man, my son didn't really start DJing until probably about 6 years ago. I want to say. Yeah. I've always had him doing weddings with me ever since he was like 12 years old. Nice. Like I have two sons. They both of them know how to DJ. Yeah. My younger son Angel, he's more. I know we haven't even talked about it, but on my art side of what I do, he's my drone pilot. He's he's the one that likes doing more on the video side and doing all that. But he knows how to DJ as well. Nice. It's just. He just likes being a part of what we do.
Yeah. That's Angel?
And then my other son's Reuben Jr. He's Reuben Jr. He goes by Reuben V.
Okay, there you go.
We kept it simple.
Yeah.
Right. His middle name, he's a junior. My middle name's Valentine, so he goes by Reuben V. So that's it. Makes it easier.
Yeah, that's dope. Nice. So you touched upon what you do with on your what did you say?
It's my addiction, yeah. It's my art.
no, for sure it is. With your son doing the drone shots, right?
Yeah.
So I remember you talking about with Chris, you're taking it more mobile.
Yeah. Right? So mobile. Okay. You kind of talked about that. Before we even started, you were talking about, hey, like, what are the lemons? What did you make lemonade out of your lemons with? Like, I went through. Super short synopsis of it all was I got married in 97. We started having kids. I got ultra religious. I thought I was going to go to hell if I listened to music. I got way religious, like crazy. So I walked away from the whole scene in a very fast pace. And I went full blast into the church and just was pretty much like, this is the direction I got to go. we ended up having our kids, so I wasn't really playing clubs. And then I kind of got back into just, I'm doing it as a mobile, as a business, kind of like a side hustle. So that's when I was doing a lot of weddings, quinceañera, like just house parties, like different concerts, different things. And then
no ditching parties.
I've actually, I've done ditching parties. So fast forward, things almost a few years back now. My ex and I, things just didn't work out. It was time to split.
Yep.
And I was feeling really super sorry for myself at that time. I was kind of going through this whole mess, like, what am I gonna do? Like, we got 6 kids. Like, how are we gonna do this?
Right.
And my boss actually took me in the office one day. He's like, "Look, man, I can see you're not doing too good." And I wasn't doing good at all. He said, "I need you to just think, what would you be doing if you weren't married? Like, what would you have been doing?" And I was like, "Man, I'd still be DJing." He's like, "You already are DJing." And I was like, "No, but I was playing clubs. I was doing like I was moving in a direction where things were going where I wanted it to go." So what I ended up doing was going back into it. And that's when I started kind of like sourcing back to some of the people that I kind of knew a little bit, but I also had this vision of doing, being able to mix and videotape what I do. Because for me, when you play in a club, that's great. Yeah, I see DJs do this all the time. They set up a cell phone and they videotape their little set. Yeah. The audio's garbage. Everything. It's just like one little cell phone. Your videotape. That's fine. But I was always looking at it as I want a permanent record. Like if I leave now,
for sure.
What are you gonna know me as? And so I went out and right before COVID hit, I bought a camera system, like a full blown. I bought a Sling system, and that system allows me to set it up, set it, forget it. Like I can turn it on and it'll run. It's wireless, battery operated. I can go anywhere, set up, and just turn that thing on and it'll record. It'll record all the different camera angles on each channel. It'll give me audio for everything. So
the whole production.
It's a whole production. So I bought it, and then I was kind of sitting on it for a little while, and I was not really knowing how to use it. Yeah. And I kept saying the only reason that I bought it is this. Here, let me take these off. Here we go.
You can just say it, Mike.
They're props now.
There you go.
The only reason that I really bought the system was so that I could record what I did. Yeah. And I always had this whole vision of I want to go out and do like sets, not just like in a nightclub or anywhere else. I want to be able to go out somewhere remote, somewhere exotic, something different. And so on our first date, both Viviana and I were out, and in comes her.
There you go.
She's asking me. We're having a conversation about history and like talking about our lives and stuff. And I'm telling her like, I'm gonna do this. And she's like, wait, so you're gonna like hop fences and do some illegal stuff? Like, we're gonna ask forgiveness over permission.
There you go. Whatever it takes.
And she's an attorney, so she's like, it's cool. We got it. Let's go check it out. So
that's good.
Fast forward. She was very instrumental in pushing me to film the first episode. I kept talking about it, and then she's like, you got to put it on the calendar. And then last year, is that January?
January 27th.
Yeah, January 27th.
There you go.
We did the Sunset Cliffs. We filmed the first episode, which was called Emotions. All the music, this is why it's art for me. Every song is picked specifically for the place I'm going to go to. So I'm not using a laptop where I can go through, I've got, 150,000 songs in a laptop. No. I pick each one of the songs specific to where I'm going to go based off of what I feel from where we're going to be at. Gotcha. And we don't always know where exactly we're going to be at. So for Emotions, that one was pretty intense because I had to take songs. Some of them are older. Some of them were kind of a little bit recent. But we went out, we set up on Sunset Cliffs, and it ends right as the sun hits the water. And and I'm surrounded by just random people. It's just crazy.
I know Mike had talked to me about it. He sent me some of the video stuff. you've been doing. But that's a whole series you got going on, correct?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
That's our Elevate series.
Elevate.
We came up with we were driving to LA to go do a therapy with AJ. She's got the logo there.
Oh.
Yeah, and then we were discussing it. That's how we came up with. It's like, okay, we're gonna launch Elevate. Elevate's gonna be. It's like we're taking everything to the next level. This is where we're gonna take whatever like brokenness I have, and I'm gonna put it into what I love doing. And
like it. The lemons.
Yeah.
Lemons and the lemonade. Yeah, that's dope.
Yeah.
Nah, man, that's why we're here.
You brought up COVID. Did the scene slow down at all during COVID?
Hey, okay, let me talk about that.
Let's do it. Oh shit.
So, I have a good friend that we talked about this. That as artists, you got to remember that comedians, DJs, like people who perform for people and get a response from people, traditionally are depressed individuals.
Yep.
Okay. Robin Williams. Like, we go down a whole list of a lot of people who are very funny. Behind the scenes, there's a reason why they're very funny.
Right.
They're dealing with they're battling with their own demons.
For sure.
Same thing with a lot of DJs. As an artist, I feed off of people.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like it's a drug. So what ends up happening is all of a sudden COVID hits and it's like you can't do nothing. They're telling us you can't do nothing. For me, that's where the lemonade hit because I had to do something. I was still doing underground like house parties and like people were still doing stuff. No matter what, people were going to still do stuff. And it was one of those things like, which is crazy. You fast forward now, look at COVID. I could say that now, but if I would have said that 2 years ago, people were like, oh my God, you're the reason why we're all dying. And it's like, and now it's like, it's almost like COVID, nobody even talks about what's going on with it anymore. So when that happened and I had to actually just say, I got to get out of here. I got to go do something. That was one of the big reasons why she pushed. She's like, let's just go film it. Let's go do it. And that was obviously, that was last year. So that was during a time frame where off and on they were locking everything down.
Gotcha.
There were events I got booked for. I got booked to play in Hollywood a year ago. It's about a year ago. Christmas time frame almost. At a club called Besties. And half of the guys, like AJ, half of the guys that were on the roster got COVID and weren't able to go. And Tony B was the headliner, so Tony flies in. He's still there, and it's just like there's like a few of us there, but it was like at that time COVID was back on the rise. It kept going up and down. So COVID really affected in that way, but in a good way for me, almost like Chipotle. It was like COVID was great for Chipotle, right? Because they already had their whole system in place. They were ready to go. They made more money and did very well because they were prepared for that.
Yeah, I think the challenge that everybody faced as far as performers go was that response from the audience because you're feeding, off of that. You're like, you're gonna know, like, is this song a hit? No, I gotta switch it up, or this one's it. This is the vibe, right? And as a DJ, that's how
you got to be able to read a crowd.
Exactly, you know what I mean? And that was a challenge within that.
You said you have an extensive vinyl collection. Did you notice an uptick in people buying vinyl during COVID?
So I do have an extensive collection from way back. I stopped using vinyl probably in like 2003. Even though I was like, oh, real DJs only use vinyl. I was one of those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I did for the first time.
Brought it back.
In like over 20 years. Canner, big props. DJ, not DJ Canner, but Canner. He's a huge big dog back in the days from the LA scene.
Okay.
He was one of those big guys that put the events together. He was making stuff. He did a grown folks ditch party at his house.
Yeah.
He does it I think he just did one last week for his birthday again.
Baby. They did this like in the middle of the week, and
they do it. They just
work.
Everybody goes over to his house, and it's like a hardcore. Like there's all these DJs there, but since you brought it up, I like the fact that nobody knew who I was. So I walked in there. They don't know me because that wasn't the scene that I was in. I was over here. They were all over there. And he tells me, he's like, "Hey, bro, just bring some vinyls," because we talked. We were both on a different podcast on separate episodes. So we stayed corresponding with each other, and he's a super humble guy.
Nice.
He tells me to bring some vinyl, so I grabbed like a bunch. I grabbed a stack, and I brought it with me. And that was the first time I had did all vinyl in over 20 years, which it felt good. It was pretty.
Let's say, how did it feel? Yeah, this was just like.
It really was. There was a lot of DJs there. The entire place was filled with DJs, and everybody was waiting for their turn.
Yeah.
But when he went on there, nobody knew that he was even a DJ. He's still just like sitting around eating carne asada.
Oh, yeah.
And then suddenly,
That's what I'm talking
suddenly he jumps on.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, he's a DJ?
Yeah.
And then he gets on and he's like on fire. I even filmed it. Like everybody
Dope.
stopped and grabbed their cell phones and were recording him.
Nice.
Because he was just like hitting it hard.
Which for me is humble. It's very humbling because these are like the whole room is full of DJs, and the worst critics in the world are DJs of themselves.
Yeah,
and
of
everybody
course,
else.
for sure.
Everybody's got,
Any
you know,
artist.
it's like, you suck, bro. Yeah, it's like, whatever. I don't care. It's gonna be me.
I'm usually hype. I'm like, oh yeah, please. Like I think we had 2 photographers recently, and I was one because I'm one of them. I'm like one of the biggest fans of this dude. Like I'm like, hell yeah, to have people on here that I look up to, that I admire, that I'm a fan of is great. So I'm always hyping. I don't think I've ever had anybody like hate on me, at least not blatantly, but which is fine. But what I was gonna ask is like, how did it feel at that point when you were like, yo, I'm back?
It's a drug.
Yeah,
it's a drug.
like back with your vinyls, where you're like, yep, I'm back doing my thing. Like
the one thing that threw me off a little bit because I haven't had too much of that is exactly what you said about all the phones in my face.
Yeah.
That's not something that I'm traditionally used to.
Yeah.
I get that sometimes at some events where people are filming, but I mean, like, good example, last night when Sneak went on, the whole place is all on their phones. Everybody's like standing there videotaping it. So that was the first time that happened to me like that, where everybody there was pretty much filming, like she said. I didn't see it until after she shows me the video, and you see, because I'm like this, I want to keep everybody dancing, and it's almost like it's awkward. It's kind of like, how come they're not dancing? And like, it's like, no, they're filming you for a reason, and it's a form of respect. And so having the caliber of the different DJs that were there do that, and then I know they had a Twitch feed that was going, so there was like 1,200 people on the Twitch feed.
Nice, dope,
A lot of people were asking on the feed, who is he? Who is this guy? What's his name?
Yeah, I was like, she's like, it's on his arm. It's branding. That's why I do it.
Right. Damn. So Mike, I need you to get a whole lemonade. We're all gonna get matching tattoos. The Lemonade Podcast. No, I'm just fucking with you. No, that's dope. No, man, I think it's good too that you come from that. You know, and then you did what the new generation or the evolving of it is, like you're able to do both. Like, yo, I'm here. I'm not just this one type of DJ. I can take it back and I can sit with these guys who are more current in a sense, or have evolved and moved beyond the vinyl. Yeah, you're comfortable in any setting, because it goes back to like when Borracho put you on. Yeah, I'm uncomfortable, but all right. Yeah. Then Chris was like, yo, you need to out. So you're good in any fucking setting. That's exactly. Which is good. Like I said, the resiliency of it, you're uncomfortable, but not really, because that's just what you've been doing. I do better when I am uncomfortable. Yeah. So that's always been like the bigger the pressure, the more the pressure that's there, the better that I do. No, I mean, I could relate. I like it. Sometimes it's like, there's a timeline. I'm like, oh, fuck, okay, cool. You work better under pressure. I feel like you get comfortable and you're like, oh, you're just chilling. I'll take my time. Yeah. But when you're like on a time crunch and like, oh, I got to get shit done, like your brain just like, for some of us, sometimes I work, most of the time I work like. Yeah, high stress situations. Yeah, I'm like, And I think that's the point of why I sometimes take myself and put myself in this like uncomfortable situations, because I'm like, I need that, like, to make me feel like, okay, I'm doing something with this. Do we have anything for him today? Okay, here we go. Get ready for it.
If you had to choose one song to always play in the background of your life, from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to sleep at night, and everyone can hear it everywhere you go, what song would that be? And why would Mike's song be Darude Sandstorm?
What's funny is, as soon as he says, because they can't see this, right? They can't see them, right? So as soon as he says, and why would Mike, and you see Mike go like, Okay, that is the most difficult question to ever ask any DJ on the planet because music, but I still answer it. Music is always something that's based off of how you feel. So for DJs who play like different styles of music, different genres of music, whatever your mood is, we're listening to country on the way over here today. So we were both kind of like last night. We're just like it's just like it's too much sometimes. I love it,
Right? No, for
but
sure.
after a while, it just becomes too much. And so it was like, hey, she's old school country, so let's just chill, bring some donuts, and just
Yeah, thanks for the donuts, by the way. Appreciate it. That's a first for us. Matt said it. I don't think we've had anyone bring anything.
Other than their props and themselves. No.
Which is fine. Which is fine.
Yeah.
That's great. But we appreciate
Somebody, I don't remember what guest it was, but they had brought lemonade, remember, and then they took it back.
They took it with them?
They took the lemonade back because they said it was expensive.
I remember. I
know who it was.
I think I remember who it was, but when we already had it, so he was like, "Oh," I'm like, "No, we already have lemonade. We don't."
Yeah.
And you know, we don't need anybody to bring anything, but we do appreciate the donut.
Well, she wanted a sugar donut this morning, and I was like, well, let's just get a dozen and just take
Let's
them.
do it. I like it. No, that's good. It's good stuff. You know what? Yeah, I like it. We might have you just come back just for the donut.
So back to the question.
Yeah.
If I was at this point, at this moment right now, there's a track called How Do I Let Go by Dennis Ferrer. And that was one of the closers that we played during one of our, what episode?
It was gratitude for Thanksgiving.
Gratitude.
Nice.
Okay, so Thanksgiving we went up to Mount Soledad at sunrise. We snuck in before the sun came up.
Yep.
We set up. That's the last episode that I just put out. I still have 2 more that I'm editing right now. One in the desert, one in front of the Midway.
Okay.
So that song, and keep this in mind, when I source music, we both source it together. So a lot of the times I'm listening to something and she's like, hey, you got to hear this. Well, that song, for me, there's a lot of meaning to it. Dennis Ferrer, if you never heard Dennis Ferrer, look it up. Look up How Do I Let Go. That track itself, the lyrics, everything about it, How Do I Let Go? It's basically about letting go of myself. Like, how do I let go of myself? Because the thought of losing me keeps me dancing. He's talking about just like, it's a very spiritual song. He's talking about, you know, God in the song without saying that.
Right.
But ultimately, he's really saying, like, I let go of myself and I trust in you, basically.
Okay, gotcha.
And for me, it's a very powerful song. And so for both of us, we have a closer that we do at every event. And I always end up at every episode that I film, I end up having her come up with me because she's crucial for me. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
And we dance and do the whole song together. So that song, we probably heard that 200 times before we got there, and the lyrics, they just mean something.
Yeah,
So
it resonates.
if
with you.
it's one of those ones where the elements of the song are impeccable, they're so perfect, the way the chords, the keys, like the build-ups, it's a really good
perfect
song.
song.
I love it. I love that song.
Well, there you go.
Right now, that's where I'm at.
right now.
And then tomorrow, but yeah. Right now, that's where I'm at.
Good.
Right now.
Yeah, I
I
mean, it's a good
I can never get tired of hearing it.
Yeah, looking back, you know, through your whole journey up to this point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're right now, a song like that seems just like a good moment to be in, peaceful, you know, and you're still doing what you love, the passion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's great. Well, with that being said, thank you for your story, for your energy, for your time, for being here with us. Thank you for the donuts.
Yeah, man.
For your lady. I'm sorry, just so that everybody knows her
This
name.
is Viviana. She's the
Viviana.
attorney in heels. If you need a lawyer, she got her own law firm, Attorney in Heels.
There you go. Attorney in Heels with the brand Elevate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, with you guys. All right, dope. Well, thanks again for being here, doing your thing.
Thanks
Keep
for the
doing it,
lemonade,
bro.
man.
No, of course. Toast to you, bro. I'll see you in the next
Appreciate
one.
it.
Yeah. Fun times. Yay. Well, that was it.
I didn't forget my line. No. Sorry about the. You should have told me earlier.
No, well, the thing is, I couldn't hear it earlier.
Was
but
it
then,
cracking
But then I
there?
started seeing that you kept raising your.
Oh, damn. Don't break the mics.
Yeah, but then you kept like shaking it next to the microphone later, and I heard it on your headphones.
yeah, that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? There's no surprises. Anything you want.
Cool.
It's a safe space.
I think Mike was saying that you guys' cameras kind of cut off after about 40 minutes.
Ish, but that's not anything you worry about.
That's what I do.
That's what
I sit back here and I watch everything.
Okay.
If something turns off, I get up and I turn it back on.
This is our budget.
That's your limit.
I told you not to worry about that fucker.
Yeah, yeah.
Recording?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We pretty much already started.
We're gonna have to cut that out. The last like 10 minutes are all recorded.
Thanks for being here.